Hello, everybody. Let me turn my music down here. And welcome to another Lehigh Valley Passport to History virtual monthly program. I'm your host, George Wacker. Each 30-minute episode of Lehigh Valley Passport to History highlights a different theme and discussion from our participating historic member sites. I would like to personally thank our sponsors made possible in Lehigh Valley, Molly's Irish Grill and Sports Pub in Bethlehem, and of course, Michael Bernardin with Remax Realty. Find Mike. Lehigh Valley Passport to History is a partnership of 50 plus historic sites and resources in and around Pennsylvania's Lehigh and Northampton counties. The group helps to promote local tourism and shares historical activities, events, tours, and exhibitions throughout the valley. Lehigh Valley Passport to History is funded in part with funding received through the County of Northampton's Hotel Tax Program, the Lehigh County Tourism Development Grant Program, and the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Visit lvhistory.org, which you're looking at for more information. Tonight, we are exploring Native American history, and our participating speakers include Delwyn Fiddler, the founder of Paza Tree of Life, and Adam DePaul, Tribal Council member of the Lenape Nation of Pennsylvania, as well as Dr. Samora Free I'm sorry, I missed it. Where are we? I'll have to bring her in. We're going to talk about that. Here we go. Dr. Samora and Adam. Wait, I got to unmute you there. I think you have to unmute yourself, Dr. Samora. All right, yes. Please tell us again about, is it Native Prime? We were just talking about it before we started.
Exactly, yes. Native Prime Productions.
There we go. So that is the correct title. I apologize for that. But we're going to get started here. I wanted to kick it off before we talk to anybody, bringing in as we're looking at the website here, I need to get rid of this, because we're going to bring in our WFMZ. Our friends at WFMZ are so kind to do this. So we're going to, for people who are maybe unfamiliar, we feel this is a great primer for everyone to get started. So sit back, relax for about 2 minutes here, and learn a little bit more about Paza Tree of Life.
It's partnering with the city of Easton to teach people about Indigenous culture.
Construction just got started on a medicine wheel, which will serve as a space for the community to unite and learn. 69 News reporter Priscilla Ligori has that.
I come from our nation called the Great Sioux Nation of South Dakota.
Delwyn Fiddler, whose Native American name is Hiakapi Mato, has spent his whole life working to educate people about Indigenous culture.
I got the honor to perform for the inauguration of Obama. I got requested to go to London to go meet the royal family.
He co-founded Paza Tree of Life in Easton to help tribes during the pandemic. The nonprofit's latest project, a medicine wheel in Humor Park.
Medicinal plants that are native, 4 boulders, the 4 directions that Native Americans honor.
There will be some permanent signage, so they'll be able to read about it, but we also see it as a place of meditation, a place of prayer, mindfulness, and beauty.
Paza got a grant from DCNR, which is being matched by the city.
Where this stake is going to be the peace pole.
That says, may peace prevail on earth in 8 languages.
Solid red cedar, which is another important element in nature for Indigenous people.
Just about every detail of the medicine wheel has some sort of meaning and symbolism behind it. The shape of the circle represents the circle of life.
We're trying to teach also about the Indigenous culture and their importance, because that's really where the roots and foundation of our country are from.
The goal is to use this spot for ceremonies and educational events.
We know from reading a lot of the Eastern history that there is Native American ties. This land
share stories and our histories of the past to now and how we can come together as one for the future.
Construction is expected to wrap up in October. Priscilla Ligori, 69 News.
Thank you to our friends at 69 News for putting that together. And I'm going to turn it over to Hiakapi Mato, also known as Elk Bear. Did I get that good?
Oh, yes.
We were practicing before I started. And I also want to welcome Brianna Fenson from Paza Tree of Life as well. It's nice to have you here.
Hello.
So, Hiakapi, can you, first of all, we wanted to talk a little bit about the name itself, because Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, a Paza is a Lakota old word called tree of life. And this is the sigma of you throughout the Turtle Island, you see the tree. And without the tree, you have no foundation. So, that's a very significant with the countwood tree, but also Paza signifies in those many different medicinal places, but also culture, song, and dance, and then how we live as human beings on this earth, Unchi Maka, and how we're coexisting of today's times from the past and into now and then together for the future. So it's a word for tree, but we use it also for many different reasons to be the tree of many different forms of interpretations to bring medicine and the knowledge to on both sides of the branches or per se or between the peoples of all nations.
And we were talking before we came on about the pronunciation of your name. And while you said that you were going back to that pronunciation, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, Hihakuba Mato is an old word. The family I come from, the Great Sioux Nation of Indians, nation, which is considered the Midwest area. I am the keeper of the pipe, currently native delegate in government at large, to help the people, but also the lineage that we come from our ancestors of bringing people together, but also signifying the center of the circle, what we call Losecha Shakawi of the Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the Shan Arapaho nations. And why that is important is because technically we're the first diplomats of Turtle Island. We're the ones that helped many nations to connect and reconnect, and in a way, today's times, we as the Lakota individuals still continue that type of things. Like we go to powwow ceremonies throughout Canada, South America, and different areas to engage in a conversation with our other nations.
And the video that we just watched, I mean, it was really well done, but can you talk a little bit more about is it the medicine wheel in Humor Park? What is that initiative about for people who might not have enough knowledge on it?
Well, the medicine wheel comes from the Cheyenne and the Lakota way of life, but also the symbolize the medicine to the people. So it means in our way, in our Lakota culture, Lakota way, the people pray in those four directions, and also it can represent the times of seasons or the time of a way of life, regarding different colors. Like like west is considered black, and where the west of the sun sets and the day ends, for example, and also that's where you go for the thunder and for medicine. Like the north is red, also symbolizes the cold, the harsh winds of winter. And then also that's where the ability to face the winds like the buffalo and the head into the direction of whatever that hardship or disconnect. We try to face just like the buffalo. The east is like the yellow represents the sun, where the sun comes up, where the sun rises, but also the prey when the first star comes out, what we call the North Star. But also that's the beginning of the day. And also that it could also be the rhythm, but also the start of your pathway to knowledge on what we call the red road. And then you got the south, also it could be considered the white, and it's also the sun where it sets to the highest, and it stands between warmth and growth, but also power drawn to the Maku way of that transition of your four directions. So as there's many lessons interpreted of the medicine wheel, but also time for seasons of renewal, but also from beginning of life and into the end of life, till we come into the spirit, but also we're going to leave in spirit and back into what we call the red road, the Maku way, the Star Nation.
And can you talk about Paza Tree of Life itself, the organization, what you do in I mean, just your general overview and some of the things that you do. I mean, we've already talked about a little bit on them, but some of the other things that you do in the Lehigh Valley.
Yes, well, we're dedicated to revive and empowerment sovereignty, and what that means to the indigenous people of Turtle Island, to see the truth of the Native people and what took place of the past and to now and the future, because there's not too many people being that component on both sides, and knowing the truth about the treaties that we have with the nations, and knowing the truth between who's who's real and who's not kind of deal, and being that productive in that kind of way through ceremonies, but also through art and songs and dances. And also Paza invites all people to circle to learn and also be the basis of that for all the people. And we also promote unity and build bridges between cultures, and serve as serve as a humanitarian, but also the center of cultural ways awareness to bring those kind of things to the fourth in front.
Mhm.
So both sides of the aisle, people can know the difference between what's happening on the native side, but also the non-native side. You know.
And anyone can weigh in on this. I mean, when we talk about history, and we've been doing these, talks for over a year now, and a lot of it we'll talk about the Moravians in Bethlehem. The history going back that far, but with the Native Americans, it went back even further. That's the original history. So why do you feel it is so important to continue to not only tell those stories, but continue to do the work now?
Because the people today there's just not enough information out there. A lot of people see us on Disney channels and stuff like that, or movies or cartoons, whatever, which is not the case. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you Indians are all taken care of. You guys will do this and do that." But there's a difference between a federal Indian, and then there's people that are not federal, and then you got state, and then you got just people just kind of putting organizations together or some way like that. But that connection is still true, because the harsh interpretation of those things, you have to remember the past and what took place of now, what we call the Trail of Tears. But now in today's times, all these different things happen. Since that we are the host nation, it's good to share this knowledge, but all across the board. Again, Paza, most of my life, I've been traveling around the world to do these kind of talks or discussions, and also bridge that, how we walk side by side, and that's such way to learn and also be as friends and allies. So it's a key point to continue the best way we can in a positive way, because there's a lot of people out there that do not comprehend the knowledge and how we're supposed to stand as friends and allies, not against each other or something like that. We're supposed to have harmony, and not say supposed to, but it's a continuous support and walk of harmony together, side by side, as friends, and peace and friendship.
Wait, and Dr. Samora, can you talk maybe a little bit about, does that go into some of the work that you're doing on the entertainment side with that company?
Yes. So as I'm on the advisory board for Paza for cultural affairs and arts, it's something that Hiakapa Mato and I chose to put together a company where it is also part of Paza, because what we do is we go and we share knowledge through the arts and through song, through dance. And Delwyn can tell you that he's been doing this most of his life, traveling all over the world. And so have I, from a different perspective. So now what we're doing is to bring harmony, is bring our gifts together through healing, through music, through dance, through all of that. And our company is called Native Prime Productions.
Okay, and Brianna, I feel bad. You came in late. I want to make sure that you also have an opportunity to speak, if you want to, just about the organization itself, or where you think that the positives are within it and within the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, I'm our director of administration and programming, so I'm really at the heart of what Paza does.
Right.
Yeah, so we're all about just bringing cultures together. I think bringing together native cultures and non-native, about like some of the really interesting things that native cultures do, like the healing ceremony about that I didn't know about, and how healing and positive that can be in the world.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just think it's fascinating. We have so many cultures, and not to be outdone, of course, are Native Americans who have so much to offer in terms of education, and like you said, brotherhood and coming together in those ways as well. We're going to be sure that we give everybody an opportunity to discuss any upcoming events coming up in a minute, but I don't want to leave out Adam, who has been very patient here. Adam, with the Lenape Nation of Pennsylvania, can you give us a little bit for people who are maybe just not aware of the organization and how it runs in our area? Can you give us an overview and an understanding of what the organization is all about, and maybe what your role is or some of the events that the organization takes part in?
Of course. And you're probably right. Many people are probably not aware of us. And not only are they probably not aware of our nation, but they're probably not aware of our history, presence, or even tribe. The Lenape people are the indigenous people of this area. Eastern Pennsylvania, southern New York, all of New Jersey, and northern Delaware. This is what is called the Lenape Hoking, the place of the Lenape. However, our all Native American history has been erased to a large extent. We know this, and ours particularly so. People who may have heard of the Lenape may have also heard that many of us were forced to leave through the forced removals, and after long tumultuous journeys ended up settling in places like Canada, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma. What very few people know within that already very minimized history is that many of our people were also able to stay here in the Lenape Hoking. And those of us who remained here have kept our nations going here in our homeland. And our nation, the Lenape Nation of Pennsylvania, is one of those nations. There are also Lenape nations in New Jersey and in the state of Delaware. So our nation is in Pennsylvania. We continue our traditional ways. We hold our ceremonies. We govern ourselves according to our traditional ways. We also do operate a nonprofit in order to raise money for the nation and help with some of our major initiatives, which are revitalization of the culture. We have a very strong language project. Our language is incredibly endangered. By linguistic standards, it's actually lower than endangered. It's in a category called latent. But we're working very hard to revitalize the language. We teach free online classes to try to get people interested. We do lots with education. I tend to serve as the academic coordinator of the nation. I work with almost 20 colleges all throughout the Lenape Hoking and some beyond, with curriculum development, presentations, helping people correct the misinformation that has been taught about the Lenape history. And we give presentations to classes and community centers, environmental centers of all ages and all folks, all venues. What you have there is our website, and that's our events page. So that gives you a little idea of just some of the events we do. These are different programs, educational talks we'll give. We also attend powwows, other nation events. We have our own annual powwow in Jim Thorpe every year. We do a lot of cultural events with other nations and within our own nation. And we operate our cultural center, which is right there in Easton. It's in the bottom floor of the Bachman House. And in the Cultural Center and Trading Post, the bulk of the Cultural Center houses an exhibit that we put together with the University of Pennsylvania that tells the story of Lenape history and then focuses down on our own Eastern Woodland Lenape history, those who were not pushed into the diaspora. And we also sell crafts and other items there to, again, raise money for the nation so we can do these educational and cultural programs.
And looking over both of the websites, you guys are busy. It seems to always be something going on. Coming out of COVID, I'm sure it was difficult for everybody during COVID, but have you found that you're like re-energized to start doing some of these events again? Adam, how has it been so far?
It's been, yes, re-energized to an extreme extent. one of the we continued our powwow, we continued our ceremonies, but a lot of that stuff is virtual. And given the community and ceremonial nature of the things we do, it's just not the same as being in person. And we have been bombarded with in-person things. However, one good thing to say that a silver lining that came out of COVID is that's when our language classes blew up, because we learned how to use Zoom. And before that, we had been struggling for years to get a single class together in our community.
Wow.
And now we're teaching 5 and about to be 6 classes a week online.
Really?
Yeah.
So is that kind of, you said Zoom, so is that done via Zoom and very much just like any other online course, I would imagine?
Yes.
Very unique. I don't know if Dr. Samora, Brianna, or Hihakapa, if you have anything to say regarding how it's been coming out of the pandemic as we go into the fall here.
Well, we happened to create this internet right before this time frame. It was a dream of my mother's to create something for the people. So I finally met a good friend of mine, Maria Ragnisi, and she said, well, why don't we just do it right now for the people? So we did it. And just like that, then COVID hit and shut everything down. And we sprung into action right there on the spot. Like we call love in action. We don't talk, we just take action. And ever since then, we just start helping medical supplies, humanitarian, all kinds of stuff, food, vegetables, traditional medicinal medicines and knowledge to all the nations throughout the world. We helped in Canada, we helped in Alaska, all these different nations throughout Turtle Island. And we made it to the international news several times, like about 4 times, talking about our endeavors and our efforts to help the people in that time. So, and even as a local community, we took into even more engagement with the nations, because a lot of people were not feeding the nations across the board. Some places didn't have water, some places didn't have food, some places even have a roof over the head. And we partnered with some other good organizations to accommodate that, and we just sprung into action, and we still continue to this day to do things like that, because again, love in action, and there's no time to. It's just you just got to continue what we to that trail of positive efforts.
Brianna, do you feel like, even though, like to what Adam said, there's a silver lining somewhere in those last 2 years? Do you feel that as well, that you were maybe able to do some things differently, which made your organization better?
Yeah, absolutely. Like our start during COVID, and that's sort of what put us out there, because we were doing so much helping Native communities, and it kind of actually just put us on the map. And now we've shifted away, not needed as much, and doing more like ceremonial type stuff and educational type stuff. Now we're shifting and going with the times and trying to bring about a
Sure. And that's going to bring us to, believe it or not, talk about what events are coming up. I've been scrolling through some of these, and I did drop, for anybody who's watching in the chat, I put both websites in there, which also lead to the social media as well for each of the organizations. I'll start with Hihakapa. Can you talk about maybe some of the highlighted events that you would like people to know about? There's so many on here, but is there any coming up that you want to?
Yes, we have the coming up on Columbus Day, they call it, but we changed to Native Day. And we're using that. We're doing a presentation there on that day to honor it, but also the initial coming out honoring of the medicine wheel, and that's going to be like the first week in November. And then we have a Thanksgiving on the 13th on Sunday. And this is a time that, because of Native American Month, this is a time that we're celebrating as such, right, in all parts of the country, but to share the knowledge with the people. And you can go to the website of Paza Tree of Life and see, you can get involved and volunteer and jump on stage and come on.
That's great. Like, just send the email, and within a week you will be on stage participating, or you could be. And Adam, same question. I mean, as we're going through here, so many events that have taken place or are taking place, including this one right here. Can you can you maybe highlight a couple of these or talk about some of them that you think are really interesting?
Sure, absolutely. Before I jump into that, I just want to backtrack for a second
Oh,
and acknowledge that that COVID has been incredibly destructive to Native American communities. And I did mention the silver lining of Zoom, but I don't feel okay moving on without just acknowledging how many elders and important knowledge keepers we lost through the pandemic.
Absolutely.
But that's all. I just wanted to say that. And yes, these many events, you can find out more information on the website. Upcoming this on the 24th, I believe that's this Saturday. There's a wonderful powwow at the University of Pennsylvania. Oh yeah, I'm scrolling to my website. I can just take it. Yes, that's going to be a great event. Our clan mother, Dr. Ann Dappis, is Penn alumni and has a lot of great continued contact there. There's a Lenape garden at Penn that reminds me much of the Medicine Wheel project that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be great. Festival Unbound and also the Polk Township Educational Day. Those are both community events, communities that have invited us in, and we'll be there doing public educational programming. We bring out traditional Lenape children's games for children to learn and play. Those are always good community times.
Okay. All right. Well, believe it or not, we were out of 30 minutes. I told you guys we could do this. We were all before this. We were figuring out how we're gonna get through. But I'm blown away by the amount of not only events but classes and workshops and those types of hands-on things. You know, Dr. Samora was saying, just you had reiterated, you're doers, like you make it happen, and that's really interesting because it's not just lip service. You're out there, you know, engaging, continuing to tell the story and to tell the history, and I think that's fantastic. And for everybody watching at home, please check the comments for more information on the websites and the social media. And I wanted to thank all of you for joining us on this Tuesday to talk more about Native American history in the Lehigh Valley, which, you know, I feel bad. 30 minutes is, you know, you're not even scratching the surface. And I think that's something we hope that people can take this as a way to scratch a little bit deeper and to learn more independently about both of your organizations. More than there's multiple organizations in here. So we want to make sure they do that. So, okay. Well, for everybody watching at home, thank you. And for you guys, hold on a second. I'm gonna end the broadcast, but hold on a second. Everybody at home, thank you so much. Please visit lbhistory.org. You can find even more information and LV Passport to History to find more about all the fun things that are coming up, including education, how you can get involved. And on behalf of Lehigh Valley Passport to History, I'm George Wacker, and thank you guys, and have a great evening.